Let's do it.
Revealer, I think.
Revealer.
Alright, so another Shudder original that we watched is called Revealer, which just came out today. Tensions rise when a stripper and religious protester are trapped together in a peep show booth and must come together to survive the apocalypse in 1980s Chicago. Off the bat, I'm going to say that this is a very ambitious film. For the obviously low budget that they have. And, you know, for that, I'll give it high marks.
Absolutely.
Just kind of for going for it and having this story and trying to stick to this like 80s style aesthetic and having the neon mood lighting kind of stuff going on, right? And the synth soundtrack and all that. I mean, it's very heavily 80s inspired. What horror fan isn't inspired by 80s neon drenched synth wave filled films of that era? And I'm never gonna say that as a negative, right? Like, I like it for sure. I would like people to start finding their own style for our generation. Otherwise, if we do enough of these, it's gonna be like, people are going to think that was our thing.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, you might want to look back further. But what a generation doesn't copy another generation? Yeah. You know, the 80s come back, the 50s came back. You know, it's like recycled
all the time.
Generations. But anyway, what did you think of the movie?
I liked it. I mean, definitely the aesthetic was a really big draw for me. The neon lighting and the sound design and everything I thought was really cool. But overall, like, I think, you know, having kind of these two main characters are really they drive the whole movie, and being with them in sort of limited spaces. It was really cool to see how they worked with the space, and I didn't ever feel really like bored or like, I did want to see more of the world, like what's going on, but again, it's like a budget limitation, I'm sure, for why we couldn't see more. So that being said, I think that they did a great job with the limited space and, you know, cast that they could have used. So I liked it. I mean, I didn't love it for sure, but I thought it was fun. I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, it's an ambitious film for the budget. That being said, with the budget, I feel like they spent a good amount of their budget on the title sequence, which I was like, you should have taken that money and maybe thrown it more towards the film, because that seemed like it was an expensive shot. But maybe not. Maybe the person who did this is like a visual effects artist and was able to just do that himself, like, or herself, or whatever. I don't know, but it looked like an expensive ass shot in a film that otherwise looked like it had a very, very low budget. Yeah, this is definitely a mixed bag film for me, for sure. I feel like kind of all over the place with how I felt throughout this movie. Like, it started, when it very first started, so we get this kind of like, you know, beginning scene that is with a character that's only in that moment for, you know, the first 5 minutes or something. It happens in tons of movies, Cube, whatever. They always have this like random character that's going through something that's like, you know, promising something to come, and they're going through it first. That I was like really nervous, because I thought the acting there was horrendous. And I was like, oh no, what are we getting ourselves into? I'm not sure. Yeah. Then we go into the main plot with our main characters, and they have the two girls, which make up the lion's share of the film. They are on screen together or separately for 97% of the movie. Yes. And it's just these two girls, and that is pretty much it in confined spaces, as you had said. And when we got to them, I liked them considerably more. Right? I was like, okay, like, that was just a rough opening. We're past that. Let's move on. And I will say, for a film that is centered around a peep show, there's shockingly little nudity, as in zero,
there's no
which
nudity.
is really bizarre to make a peep show movie centered around literally a peep show girl who never gets nude, even though she's doing a peep show in it. Very odd. Very odd. Doesn't matter. Just odd. But the film is just... There were moments where I was like, hell yeah. Like, I really like that. And go, girl, kind of moments,
Oh, yeah,
right?
absolutely. There's a lot of, like, real feel-good stuff.
Then there's a good amount of the film where I was just kind of blah. Like, I was just kind of like, okay. Like, we're plodding along, and that's fine. And hopefully we'll just get, peaks and not too many valleys, and we can just kind of go throughout the film. And I'm fine with that. A film doesn't always have to be at 100, right? It can have some dips and kind of flatline for a little bit just to move the plot along. Maybe it isn't as interesting. That's all fine and well. But this film did kind of go a little all over the place for me, where some scenes were kind of insufferable for me, where there's a little too much, people. I don't like... I've never been a huge fan of scenes where people are trying to deliver these kind of like one-liner cool scene moments where they're getting back at the demon or this, and they say this like cool hip thing, and they're like punching them, and they have that one-liner moment, and if it doesn't land, it really doesn't land, and it makes you roll your eyes, and you go, ugh, and it really takes you out of the moment. Like, the one-liner is a dangerous thing in films. Like, Arnold can pull it off, right? Because, like, he's like, I don't know, there's something about him.
It's the charisma.
He's able to pull off the cheesiness without you rolling your eyes, or... You are rolling your eyes, but in a way that you're, like, comfortable and you're like oh, God. Of course he did that. Like, and it's fine, but for some reason, just there's lines in this movie where one of the girls is like, don't fucking do that. And I'm like... Oh,
there's some cheesiness for sure, but that's kind of, to me, that was like, this is the 80s that they're trying to emulate in a lot of ways. But I get it.
Exploitive.
It was, not all those lines were necessary for the plot or anything. It was just for the cool factor.
Yes, I agree. Okay. That being, putting that aside, my biggest gripe, I suppose, with the film is I am very unclear on the message of the movie when it feels very preachy, but I'm not really sure about what. Like, to be yourself.
I think that's like the main thing that I took away.
But
like be honest with yourself and be who you are. But obviously, without any spoilers, the ending it kind of made me question. Like, I don't know if that's really.
That's what I'm saying. With the ending, I'm just kind of like, what does this mean? Yeah. And I was asking you multiple questions after of like, how does that play into what happened? And what does that even mean? And where even are we? And where did we leave off? And what's the message to be like? Because the film, it deals heavily with religion, okay?
Yes.
It's something we haven't really discussed here, but you have one girl who's the sinner, she's the peep show girl, and the other girl is the religious person who sits out front of places and protests all the sinners and whatever. And they have to work together, right? It's the odd couple. Mm-hmm. And, in doing so, I'm sure you can guess where that ends up heading. But it's just, you're kind of being told, because it is very preachy purposefully, right? Like, the girl's very preachy and everything about it is preachy. And then you think maybe it's being preachy, but like ironically, and it's going to flip, but then does it? I don't know. So I'm very confused in the message in the film. I really don't understand what ended up happening.
Yeah, I think that the ending for me was one of the big downsides of the film. If it had had a different ending or a little bit more of a clear ending, Because this wasn't just like, oh, it's ambiguous. It was, like you said, we were like, huh? Like, wait, what does that mean for everything that happened? I think if it had been a little different and more clear and structured, I would have enjoyed the film even more. But because I'm like the same way that you feel, where I'm just like, I don't understand how we got there and where the story would go potentially from there.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, and it is hard to discuss without spoilers in that way. But like, even with spoilers, I'd still be back where I'm at right now, where we just say a bunch of shit about the movie and then be like, yes, I don't know. Right. So it's discussing it ain't gonna make sense to me. Talking about it with someone who also doesn't understand it, right? So maybe I'll talk to someone in the comments below who does understand what the hell the meaning of this film was and the message that they were trying to put out there. Because I do feel like this film could have really worked and really had some great fist pump moments and really had just, I don't know, like a lot of excitement behind big moments happening. Right? The reveals could have landed really well. Like when things are revealed, it could have been a oh shit and a like hell yeah and I wanted to feel those things sometimes and I just didn't because I didn't feel like they landed them well enough where I was like, oh hell yeah, go for that and that's good for them, or like finally, or any of those kinds of moments where I wanted to have that. There was one thing where I was like, hell yeah, I get it.
I think that it was also a pretty predictable film. I mean, you were like, this is going to happen. And then like 5 minutes later that happened.
It's predictable up until the end where you're like, okay, so I guess this is probably where this film's going. And then it doesn't go there, and it's not because, like, I predicted something else was going to happen, so I'm like, oh, I can't look past my own self-interest. No! It's like, I'm like, okay, that's not how the film ended. I don't understand why this film ended this way, though.
Right.
Right? Not because I was wrong at all, but because I didn't get it. And I'm just dumb, and that's fine.
No.
Yes.
No?
100.
No. Not.
But it's on Shudder.
It is.
Make a judgment for yourself.
Yeah, watch it. It's got cool lights. There's some pretty like colors, some cool sounds. So you've got that to look forward to.
Sound like you're selling this to other idiots. It's got pretty lights to look at.
Pretty sounds. Check it out, maybe.
Come on, Sally, pretty girl. Isn't that the girl's name in this too, Sally?
Yeah.
That's fucking funny. I'm gonna turn into Glazer throughout I should have been using that throughout. Come on, Sally.
Come on, Sally.
It's gonna be real good. You're gonna like it. I'm sorry, Sally. I don't know what happened. The Burning, okay? 1981. Check it out. All right.